Spoilers ahead, we will be pulling back the curtain on Spider-Man Far From Home coming up. Hey everyone, my name's Austin, and this channel is all about digging deeper and going further to better understand faith, film, and everything in between. If that is exciting to you and you're new here, consider subscribing for a new video every week. Spider-Man Far From Home has been out for a few weeks now, and I have had the opportunity to see it twice, and I have absolutely loved it each time I've seen it. Far From Home is one of those movies that greatly benefits from a double viewing, because the first time you're taking everything in and there's a huge twist partway through of Mysterio being the villain. Even though comic fans kind of saw it coming and hoped this was what it was going to be, it's still a big deal, and it's something that really benefits from going back and watching it a second time to really pay attention to the little details and little breadcrumbs that Marvel drops along the way, because there are a ton of them that I noticed my second time through. Now, the debate with every Spider-Man movie that comes out is it the best Spider-Man yet? And as much as I love the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, because those are ones I grew up with, so they're very near and dear to my heart, I can't argue with the fact of how good of a Spider-Man and a Peter Parker Tom Holland is. I really love the direction that they are taking this character. I think they did a really good job in both Homecoming and Far From Home, taking the classic story of Spider-Man, his origins and all that, and really bringing it to the 21st century, really modernizing it well for the new generation that is here and where our world is technologically and all these different things. Peter continues to be an interesting character, and especially after the events of Avengers Endgame, they really take him in some serious and dark places, with him really suffering with the grief and the loss of Tony Stark. And I really thought this movie did a good job really presenting that in a realistic way for this 16-year-old kid who has had this mentor now for the past 4 or 5 years, who's really had a deep fatherly kind of impact on his life, and being a father figure is just ripped out from him, and he really is feeling that void. And not only that, now everyone in the world wants him to take that place of Tony Stark and fill that void for the entire world, and that is a ton of pressure to be putting on a teenager, and I think Tom Holland really presents that well in his acting as the character. Now, before I jump into Mysterio, I have to talk about Fury, or should I say Talos, in this movie, because not only did the movie pull this curtain away from us with Mysterio being the villain, I think almost an even bigger twist was in the first end credit scene, where it's revealed that Fury has been Talos, the Skrull, for this whole time. And like I said, when you go back and watch the movie a second time, you pick up a lot of stuff from Mysterio along the way. And I feel like even from the first few lines spoken in this movie between Maria Hill and Fury, it's almost obvious that, why didn't I see this the first time, that Fury is not Fury? They're behaving completely differently. But I absolutely loved that twist, and that the movie really had us going the whole time, not even suspecting the fact that there would be a double twist of someone not being who they say they are. Now, Mysterio, he is absolutely way up there with the performance of Green Goblin and Doc Ock from the original Spider-Man trilogy. I think those are kind of like my highest standard when it comes to Marvel villains oftentimes, and I feel like Jake Gyllenhaal absolutely brought his A game and was the perfect casting choice to bring Mysterio to life in this new kind of modern setting. Marvel really has it down when it comes to their villains now, and giving them real depth and actually giving us the ability to really relate to them, and not just, this is the bad guy and we're gonna hate him and he's gonna be off at the end of the movie, but really giving us depth and conviction when it comes to their own morals and their beliefs. The reveal scene when we find out that Mysterio has actually been pulling all these strings since all the way back in 2008 with the first Iron Man movie is just mind-blowing to watch. I totally saw it coming because I'm a big fan of the Spider-Man character, but it didn't take away from the magnitude of that moment. And I love how they just continue to really just lace all of these movies together with these little tiny hints and drops, and bringing these characters back from this even one scene to just really deliver in these moments. I loved Gyllenhaal's performance of Mysterio and Quentin Beck in that you get enough backstory on him, similar to the Falcon, where they did in Homecoming, where you can understand his frustration in that, you know, he had this brilliant invention that Tony just totally threw out the window, called it barf, as he said, and he really just felt that hurt from that and that he deserved more. And that's totally something that anyone would experience and have a similar reaction to. And it's really cool the way that they kind of carried that through and up throughout this movie. There were a few moments in particular that I felt really kind of stood out with Mysterio's character. And the one point when Mysterio is talking to Peter, and he's now been discovered by Peter that he has been pulling all these strings all along and totally lying to everyone. And he's to the point now where he's found out, okay, now I have to kill Peter because of what he knows. And when he's talking to Peter, he says, like, it's easy to fool people if they're already fooling themselves. But for what it's worth, I'm really sorry. And you can really tell in that moment he's genuine about that. He never wanted to hurt Peter, but he felt that, you know, he had his mission, and unfortunately due to circumstances, he had to follow through with this and eliminate him. And I thought that was a really interesting direction to go with the character. And along those same lines of the first part of that quote where he says it's easy to fool people who are already fooling themselves, there's another point in the movie where he tells Peter, people need to believe, and nowadays they'll believe anything. And as totally kind of big as that is for the movie, there's so much applicable to that in our real world, and how truth has been so convoluted and twisted just over the past few years in our society. And I think that's a really interesting quote to really analyze, because you can, you know, reflect that quote on both the movie and what it means in that moment and with those characters, but at the same time it's reflective on ourselves and our society and how we view all of that. And it really can spark up some good conversation, I think, as to, you know, getting back to what really is truth and how important it is to have, you know, those true truths in our world. Okay, so now I want to give a theory here, and before I present it, I want to know from you guys. At the end of the movie, we see Spider-Man defeat Mysterio and he's dead. And I want to know, do you think Mysterio is still alive, or do you think, yep, he's gone and dead? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to talk about it. My theory is that Mysterio is still alive, especially after watching the movie a second time, and watching a couple theory videos online. I think it's almost obvious that he is alive, but there's some people who disagree with me. Now, my reasoning behind this, I think he's still alive because after that message is sent to the one guy that's working with him with the glasses, who's been behind the computer the whole time, he receives that message of the one that they're going to expose Spider-Man with to reveal his identity and whatnot. You see on the top of his phone screen it says drones active 500, and obviously before Mysterio got a hold of all these drones that Tony had up in that satellite in space, they had some drones of their own. They were stationary drones, but they were still drones that they used to, you know, create the illusions from the beginning before he got a hold of all these extra ones. So I think he had all of those in that hallway there to like double fake his death as a full backup for everything. Also, along with that, when Spider-Man takes Edith and the glasses back and says, like, are there any illusions or something like that, and she says all illusions are down, he just took the glasses back and asked Edith. Now, it may very well be, since he was the original owner of the glasses, he can still use them, but when he gave the glasses to Quentin or Mysterio right before it was revealed that Mysterio was going to be the villain, he had to confirm that transfer. And when Peter confirmed it, then he got control of the glasses. But then at the end of the movie, he just grabs the glasses back, snatches them, puts them on, and asks this. And I feel like Mysterio had Edith long enough that he could have programmed something in there pretty easily to convince Spider-Man that he was dead. And he said, I always have a contingency. So if this guy's as smart as someone like Batman, I feel like he would have planned for a situation like this. So that's my theory as to why I think Mysterio's still alive. Definitely let me know in the comments down below, because I'd like to know people's opinions on this and have a good conversation as to which one we think is true. Obviously, we won't know until the next Spider-Man movie. I really feel like they're leading up to a Sinister Six in the third one, and I think that would be awesome, and I would love to see that, but we will have to just wait and see. Now, I've already talked about themes a little bit, but I want to swing back to them again. There's some really good symbolism in this movie of heroism. Now, obviously, there is a ton of movies in this franchise now that are all about heroes, but I always felt like Spider-Man's hero story is a little bit different and more unique, and I really like the way they just present that everyday man is a hero. And Spider-Man's always interesting because he's kind of reluctantly a hero. He wants so badly to have, for some example, someone like MJ in his life as a girlfriend, but he just can't help but answer to that call of responsibility that he feels he has to keep New York safe. And not only does he have this to worry about, but with the absence of Tony Stark, as I mentioned, he has this void that everyone is expecting him to fill in, and it's just an insurmountable amount of pressure on him. And I feel like that definitely is reflective of our own lives, in that we all feel these different gaps and voids that we feel need to be filled, and we can fill them with anything we want. We can fill them with any humanly fleshly desire of, you know, different forms of entertainment, different forms of food, this relationship, that relationship, all these different things. But in the end, what matters is the fact that what that hole is shaped like, and that void. And when it all comes down to do it, that is a God-shaped hole, and only He can fill that for our lives, to give us that true satisfaction and really filled in a way that is fulfilling for our lives and the lives of those around us. Just like Spider-Man, who goes through all this grief of trying to cope with his loss of Tony and Iron Man, he needs to find something to fill that void in his life. And that is not something we are unfamiliar with. It's something we are totally used to here on this earth, and it's something that can only be filled by the one true King God. So those are my thoughts on the latest entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe of Spider-Man Far From Home. As you can probably tell, I loved this movie, and I am so excited for the future of the MCU, as this is the bookend on Phase 3. Leading up to it, I wasn't sure what they were going to do to really kind of bookend this, but I feel like it was absolutely a good way to go about it, and it really kind of sets us up for the hope of what's to come next. And as always, if you have enjoyed this video and are looking to dig deeper and go further to better understand faith, film, and everything in between, you are in the right place. Subscribe to my channel for a new video every week, and I will see you in the next video.